Good Wednesday morning. I want to switch to the gospel here, Luke, okay? This is, I like this text, okay? Yeah, let me read it to you, okay? It's Luke says, Jesus said to the crowds, to what shall I compare the people of this generation? What are they like? They're like children who sit in the marketplace and call to one another. We played the flute for you, but you didn't dance. We sang a dirge, but you didn't weep. John the Baptist came neither eating nor drinking, and you said he's possessed by a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking. You said, look, he's a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is vindicated by all her children. See, sometimes it's tough to please the church. It's tough to please. And if I get a little kick out of it, it's only because I guess I'm thinking, you always have to preach the gospel. You're not there for popular purposes. It's not a game. We're not there to play. And sometimes the gospel is an uncomfortable gospel. Sometimes we have to call it for what it is in the world we live in. And I think the church is facing that head on now. I think so. All across the board. I think especially in moral matters. In my view, the church is the last powerful moral voice in at least the Western world, especially in terms of human dignity and the inviolability of a human being. It's inviolability. We have more and more, in one way, we have been strong advocates for human rights in Europe and in America, especially in America, by, I think, the leadership of Martin Luther King. I think they should canonize him, to be honest with you. If he ain't a saint, there is no such thing. He's a martyr to justice. I mean that. I'm grateful for him. He made us think in different terms. He was speaking of the black community, but he was speaking to all. Anybody who felt like a minority or in any way outside the mainstream had to feel comfort in his words and hope and trust. I mean it. So whatever the case may be, but I think we are in an age, of rights, but in another way, we don't have a strong foundation for those rights. We have legal rights, but do we understand the depth of moral rights? And we've been compromising on that. In one way, no, in another way, yes. We see the rights of our citizens. For instance, the African American. That's Martin Luther King, okay? But remember, he's a Christian preacher. He had a keen sense of what human dignity was and its inviolability. Once you politicize morality, you risk it becoming whimsical, especially in a democracy, which I love. I'm a thoroughgoing believer in democracy, okay? But you also know democracies are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to whims, political whims and moods and moments. And I think in the last 50 years, we have, in one way, defended human rights poignantly in our society, and in other ways we've betrayed them. And especially we betrayed them on the abortion issue. I don't like talking about it a whole lot. It's not popular. But what we have done is denied the rights of the unborn. So we made, in a sense, the life of the unborn subject to being desired by the mom, by the mother. Being desired. If you're not desired, you're abortable. There is something horrific about that idea. Once you play it out and depoliticize it and look at it from a moral perspective, it's horrific that your right to life is subject to the desire of another. The truth is, when the abortion issue became an issue 50 years ago, colossal with Roe versus Wade, the preaching of the church, but the whatever you want to call it, the position out in the open was the counter move to it was the reference to the Dred Scott case, when the court here in St. Louis declared Dred Scott, who was a slave, to be subhuman. See, that's what we're claiming about the unborn, that they are not fully human until they are born. Not even if they're near-born. They have to be born. When you look at it philosophically and morally, not politically, look at it morally, you have no idea how horrific that is. because it's a denial, a radical denial. It's a democratization, making democracy the basis of rights instead of a radical right that comes from simply being human. Once you qualify that, all bets are off. You saw what the Nazis did in Germany. They denied the Jews and Gypsies, the mentally handicapped. They denied them they denied their human rights. And therefore they removed from them their political rights, their civil rights. There are very few absolutes in morality. But I think the one most fundamental is the right to human self-preservation, human dignity. It's human inviolability. And when you start compromising it, you risk really, and again, a Holocaust. The Holocaust. A Holocaust of human life. I don't know how many abortions occur a year, but they're in the millions. Okay. I believe in certainly strongly, fiercely in women's rights. You have a right never to become pregnant without your full cooperative consent. You're not a baby maker. On the other hand, once you're pregnant, then there's two people there. There are two persons, not one. And the one person within you has no chance of life without you. They're totally dependent. That's a crucial moment. They are as dignified as anyone else, except they have no voice. The church really at this point is the only voice they've got, saying they have a right to their life. That's the truth. This is a tricky talk today, I'm sorry to say. I don't like talking about it because it's so controversial. It's so controversial. I am a fierce defender of women's rights. I think finally women's rights are being respected and honored and protected and all the rest. But there is a limit to rights, and the limit to right is the other person's right. And the key is the right to life. That's the limit on all other forms of life, of rights. And we've compromised that significantly over the last 50 years. Anyway, just a reflective thought. Just a reflective thought. I'm a strong believer in human rights. I think that's the greatest genius of Western ethics, is the understanding of what it is to have a right to your life, a right to your life, and to your free disposal, the integrity of your freedom of will. I mean that. Fierce defender of it. It's the basis of all civilized life. But you have to know its limits too. And there's very few limits to it. Well, the most important limit is you can't use your rights to incur on the rights of another. You can't. And you've got to be very, very careful. You have to be extremely careful when you start to define who is human. And history's shown us in the 20th century, in the 19th and 20th century, we denied blacks their rights until the Civil War. And the Jews were denied rights from the late 20s, at least the early 30s, till 1945. You see what happens. That's why you've got to protect human integrity, human rights, without qualification, as a fundamental right. The right to one's life, the right to be free of aggression, unjust aggression against you, against anyone. See? Once you deny that, well, no holds are barred. You're doing a horrific, violent act toward another human being. And if you legalize it, it's literally Sadie bar the door.